She was blindsided. She didn't know. It's like insulting to my intelligence. Like, who do you think has better insight on what's going on, social media or me?
Well, before I get into the video, I just want to apologize for the camera quality and the mic popping. I don't know what was going on with my recording software, but I had to get this video out come hell or high water. So here you go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Queenie, for those who don't know me. Taking a different approach to the whole AD Ashley interview. Initially, I was inclined to be petty. Not gonna lie. I downloaded videos, I had my notes ready. I was like, oh, I'm gonna read her for filth. However, after lamenting on some things and going to church today is Saturday, y'all know if the face is on, it's probably because I went to church. I was like, you know what? I think I want to approach it differently. And I also wanted to touch on the Lateris interview with Reginald and Kelly Steele. I actually recorded a whole video about that, but I felt like my takeaways weren't what I wanted to talk about. Like what I spoke about wasn't what I wanted the takeaway to be from how I received that interview, if that makes sense. But, anyways, if you are fiending for a smidge of pettiness, I did talk about it lightly with the Smith sisters on my podcast, The Reality Recap. If you are not subscribed, please, please, please do subscribe to that channel. I can link it here. If you are on mobile, you can click the link. It is also available in the description or on the homepage of my channel. A lot of people ask why I have a separate channel. Number one, a lot of YouTubers have multiple channels. Let's start there. But this is my channel with the partnership with the Unwell Network. But essentially, it's the same thing. Some shows you guys have asked for, like Real Housewives of Atlanta. I have an interview with Sydney for $1 Million Secret. Like shows like that, y'all can find over there. Y'all can find us talk a little bit petty about the Ashley situation over there. But in this video, I wanted to talk about my takeaways from both of these interviews. So I thought it was interesting how one couple has been married for over 30 years and another couple was only married for a year. However, there's a lot of similarities, in my opinion, that can be found in both relationships. And I'm not giving advice because sometimes y'all think when I say something, I'm advising you to do. I'm not advising y'all to do nothing. I'm telling y'all what I gleaned from these interviews, and um seeing that marriage is becoming more and more of a reality the more that time goes on, if you know, you know, I'm just like, I'm taking in a lot of more marriage content, and I just want to see the things that I want to accept for myself and maybe the things that I want to reject. So, hey, if this video is not for you, I totally understand. If you wanted me to read her, drag her, it's just not happening this time around. this time around. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about lessons that I learned or the principles that I am going to stand more firmly on after listening to these two interviews. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe and hit the bell, and leave a comment down below. So, as I said, I am going to be talking about two separate interviews. If you by chance don't know either of these interviews, let me give you a quick synopsis. So, there's a lady, Ashley. She went on Love is Blind, I think it was season 7 or something like that. And she got married to a guy named Tyler, and that was an absolute train wreck. She has since filed for divorce, and she has decided to tell her story. Now, people aren't really happy with how she told her story because she claimed if she was truly played by Tyler, she would come and do her Risa Tisa, but she gave us baby food. So there's that. And then there's the interview on the Dear Future Wifey podcast hosted by Lateris. And he interviewed Pastor Reginald Steele and his wife Kelly Steele. And they were in a situation where she basically helped facilitate his cheating because at the end of the day, she was the one who was chosen. And I thought, there's a lot of there's a lot of crossover in these stories. And I was like, it would be interesting to see how I could connect the two and maybe talk about the points that really stuck out to me and the things that I've been looking at in terms of like relationships, marriage, whatever. So the first thing that stood out for me in both in both couples was the lack of holding on to boundaries.
My mother divorced my father for infidelity, and I'd always thought if you could just forgive him, our family would stay together.
Oh, that's deep.
So that was not a deal breaker for me, as
That's
long as
deep.
I knew about it. Now, he knows if I found out about it, we'd have a problem.
But if he told you in advance, you'd be okay.
Yeah.
So if he said, hey, listen, tomorrow I got this little shorty lined up. I'm going to go run through and I'm going to smash it. I'll see you the next
Well,
day.
he would never say that.
It was usually after the fact.
Yeah.
What I've learned and what I'll take to, other relationships is be careful with your empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Your empathy has to have boundaries. I'm a very empathetic person, and I think that he played on that.
Yeah.
Before I went to the show, I was abstinent for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really focusing on myself and what I wanted, which is why this sucks so much, because I was ripe and ready. My mom and my friends used to say, I don't give guys wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
Now they the wiggles.
It's
see
strict,
why?
right? It's
you
strict.
see why I don't give them wiggle room? That's why I used to be so hard on men.
Kelly says that she was aware her man was out here in these streets. The only thing for her was that if she knew what would happen before it happened, she would be able to forgive him. However, Reginald will go and do whatever the hell he wanted to do anyways. And guess what she did? She continued to forgive him. And this became like a cycle of repeated behavior where he would go cheat on her. He would step out with this one, that one, that one, this one. She would help him go and cheat and all kinds of things. And he would just come back as if nothing was wrong because that became their routine. Now, I don't know when she started to help him cheat, but definitely he was doing it behind her back, which went against their initial agreement. But because she decided to be a little bit lax with her boundaries, he was able to step over them anytime that he wished, and she just was okay with that. She primed him to behave that way and to not be apologetic either, because she didn't require that from him. And similar with the Ashley situation, she says that in previous relationships, she actually used to be very strict. And this time around, she had done the work. She was ready to be married. She's in her soft girl era. And she decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. And, I've been having conversations recently with my friends talking about hearing a man out, giving a benefit of the doubt in certain situations is just a waste of time. If you see that this person is not the type of person who you want to be attached to, if he is saying a lot of things, but he's not showing proof of any of these things that he's talking about, what is the point of hearing him out? Both of these ladies were getting really loose with their boundaries, and it became easier for these men to disregard the boundaries altogether as time went on. Ashley even says that she believed the sob stories that Tyler would give her, and whereas typically when she would hear all of the trauma dumping from a guy, she would just cut it off. This time around, I guess this is part of being in the soft girl era, she would just take it all in, and she really felt for him, and it allowed her to disarm herself, and it led her into the situation that she's in, which is kind of sad. But it leads into my next point, which is don't ignore the signs. And for me, the signs were there from the beginning. Now, according to Ashley in 2025, she claims that Tyler presented himself as somebody who was ready for marriage, who was ready for this kind of commitment, who was ready for this kind of emotional work. I don't know if that's entirely true.
He didn't expect to get married. He didn't expect to meet. He didn't expect to fall in love with me, allegedly. And I'm just like, I even asked him, like, did you ever love me? But again, it's coming from the mouth of who?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I'll never know. To marry me is crazy work.
Right.
To
Insanity.
ask for my mom's hand,
Insanity.
my hand, it to my mom is crazy work when your life was in such a disarray and more area than one.
So you don't think he was ready for marriage?
No, I don't. I remember one time this man said to me, I don't have the emotional capacity to be there for you right now. I said, what?
Don't piss me off.
This is the end too. This is like around the end, right? I'm like, what you mean? It's funny because before everything went viral, everyone was like, R&B love, Tyler Ashley. Ooh, finally we got one kind of situation. And y'all felt what I felt through that wall. You know what I mean? Like we were connecting in a very deep and emotional way. And throughout the year of marriage, I felt loved. Think that maybe he wants to know how to love, but he doesn't. And he presented himself as someone who did.
Yeah, we need a motive.
I remember watching back the show, and at the wedding episodes, Ashley was talking about, he makes me coffee in the morning and he does this and he does that. And it was just these little things that, yes, are cute, but it didn't seem like big enough things to rave about in the way that she was raving about. And so now in this interview, she's talking about him being able to do the little things, but when it came to being emotionally available for her, doing the bigger things that he had promised to do, he was unable to do so. And it's interesting because she claims that up until all of the drama came out about his children and the mother of his kids, that relationship was filled with love and she felt the love. She does earlier say that she had to teach him to be a leader in their relationship. She had to teach him to show up better. And it seems to me that all of her teaching was in vain because he did not do those things. She was still complaining about him not being able to show up. There was even a moment where he went up to her and he was like, honestly, I don't even have the capacity to be there for you emotionally right now, which says to me that entire year of their marriage was exactly the same. It wasn't a situation where the news that broke the internet was the one that also broke their marriage. Their relationship had cracks from the beginning. And speaking of from the beginning, I had to go back and watch my reviews for the show because I was like, I swear there were signs in the pods too. And sure enough, there were. We are going to start with Ashley A. She is 31 and is shocked why she's single because she has always wanted to be married and plans to stay married.
Ashley A. Who is this?
This is Tyler.
Like, I'm easy to talk to.
No, you have a soothing voice, but it's like, I'm a huge food guy. Love to cook.
Oh, you
And
cook?
Yes.
Oh, you write that down.
I had things to ask, and then my nerves.
No, it's okay. I love that you're nervous.
Ashley A really does have a calming demeanor about her. I can see why the guys got really comfortable with her in the pods. Now, she says that she has a very generous heart. She wants to bless others because she has been blessed. And then it reminds me that isn't she the one who was basically with a hobosexual? Like, she was financing this man's entire lifestyle. Let's be cautious of how much we want to bless people, I don't know how much I feel. I don't know. It's giving a scrub as a guy who thinks he's fly and is also known as a buster. Girl, I think you were with a buster. The funniest part about this clip is at the time, people were in my comments saying, you're talking about the wrong Ashley, you're talking about the wrong Ashley. Come to find out, all the Ashleys ended up in the same situation.
Dad cut her out of his life or having kids outside of her race.
No.
It was growing up struggling. My mom didn't have much. She would work all day, then she would come home enough to get us dinner, then she would work a night shift, and she'd be like, oh, I'm not hungry, but I knew she was hungry. And we didn't have much love. I remember I wouldn't even tell my mom, I love you, nothing. Her mom found out she had cancer. I didn't know how to console a person.
I spent a lifetime running.
Tyler says that his mom was cut off by her family because she had kids with somebody interracially. Now, I'm not quite sure if she ended up marrying his dad, but it sounds like she raised him and his siblings as a single mom. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. But he says that, but also, didn't I just say that it is important to talk about the nuances of being in an interracial relationship? Hello, it's important. It's not the end all and be all, but it's important conversation to have. He says that he grew up struggling with expressing love because he didn't really see much of love. He wasn't in a verbally affectionate family like that. So when his grandmother passed away, which was the only support that his mom had, he didn't really know how to console her. Now, in his defense, he was young. However, if I was Ashley, I would question how he has worked through that. Are you now more affectionate? And what does that look like? And right after I said it, the man said in the men's quarters that in his past relationship, he tends to be closed off. He says if he would have met Ashley and he wasn't attracted to her, he wouldn't give her the time of day. And if he was attracted to her, he would shut himself off because of whatever reason. And I'm like, you see why it's important to ask him if he's worked through that? Even if you are attracted to her, you would shut yourself off. Why? I think it has to do with that complex of expressing love. I think he still struggles with that. So I would want to know, if I was with him, how has he worked through that?
Great point to meet me, because just prepare him. And people he is not that nice. It wasn't nice to y'all. You never know who comes out of woodworks.
It might sound crazy.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sorry. For me, you don't know half the shit I know about her. I guarantee it.
There's nothing no one can tell me. No one.
I'm sure I'll hear the same thing, from other people.
No, you won't. Not even my mom. I love my mom to death. We're like this. You gotta sit down, you gotta shut up.
Okay.
You gotta be happy for me or you can't come.
He says that people in his life would tell her that he didn't used to be the nicest guy. And then I go back to the pods and I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder if he has worked through this whole I hadn't been shown love, so I didn't know how to show love thing. And yes, he talks about his grandmother passing when he was young, but that stuff, gets carried with you as you get older. So I would love to hear how he has worked through that. Your friends, well, it's sounding like it's his friends, would say that you're not the nicest person. And he's like, well, I was not nice to you, or something like that. And I'm like, I think also how you treat people is an indication of how you're going to treat your partner. Not like a direct correlation, because obviously there's some difference when you're in a romantic relationship, but it's a pretty good determining factor how you treat others. I think it is anyways. So Ashley says she's not going to be worried about that because she doesn't want the opinions of others to cloud her judgment. Even if her mom was to say something, she knows what it is in her relationship, so she's going to stay true to that, which I would agree if this was regular dating. But because this is such an expedited process, I would take heed to the word of the people in your family. Tyler would tell on himself time and time again on the show, from the time that he said that people are going to come out of the woodwork and say things about me, you better not believe them. I used to be, mean to other people, but of course I'm going to be loving to you. Same man who even said he doesn't even know how to show and express love for real, but all of a sudden he's going to know how to do it with this person who he just met like a week ago from behind a wall. All of it was just crazy to me. And it's not to say that I wasn't rooting for Ashley and Tyler at that point of the season, but there were things that I would question, like, why doesn't she inquire more about these things? Or why is she trusting blindly the things that he is saying, as if people can't put on their persona, like put on their best face for as long as possible. People do that in real life, let alone on a television show where you are behind a wall. Girl, you have to investigate. She says in this interview that what you hear in the pods is law, which makes it that much more important to want to investigate more on what this person is talking about, because this is going to build your case on whether or not you want to marry this person. And I always believed there were holes in Tyler's story that I wanted Ashley to find the fillings for. And instead of asking him to supplement what was missing, she decided to do it herself, which is a problem. Kelly, similarly to Ashley, was just happy to be chosen. We heard Ashley speak a lot about, I just want to be married, and once I get married, I don't want to be divorced, and whata. Kelly had a similar mentality. The history with her is that her mom actually left her father when they were quite young, and it was due to infidelity. And she always resented her mom for that decision. She felt like she could have stayed and fought harder for the marriage. Later on, when she's now with Reginald, she took pride in the fact that she was the starter, even though he had a whole bench of other women.
When I met him, he told me, you're my starter, but I got other ones on the bench, And, what else would you tell me, baby?
That you my point guard.
Yes. And that you love me.
But I like them.
Right. A couple months after we got married, he looked at me and said, I never had fun. And I didn't know what that meant.
As an adult.
Literally, he backslid for 5 years. Yeah. So he left this holy lifestyle back to smoking weed, drinking, chasing women. At that time, I was chasing with knives, trying to jump on hoods of cars, fighting women. That was kind of a common thing. We were living in Section 8 housing on food stamps, having children, and it got so crazy that one day I said, I can't do this anymore because someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to either go to jail or get killed. I was working my way out of poverty. I got the job with the police department, and my aunt found me a job in Virginia to have me work there because I was going to leave. It was really bad. Mm-hmm. And I had my 2 babies with me trying to leave, and I put my hand on the door. And I'm not going to say God told me to stay or leave, but I felt like I couldn't leave. And I cried because I felt like I can't leave.
I also found it interesting how Reginald came from a line of men of the cloth. So his father was also a pastor. His grandfather was a deacon. I don't know how far it goes beyond that. But as somebody who was raised in the church, who seemingly knows better, who claims to have been radically saved, he then backslid for the next 5 years, and their relationship became extremely volatile to the point where their lives were being threatened by each other, mind you. And so I'm looking at this relationship, and yes, they have been married for so long, and that's great and all. But those signs that show up at the beginning, if they are not pointed out from the beginning, I believe that they are only going to be emphasized as time goes on. And so I think to myself, like, I recently had a conversation with my boyfriend, right? And we had a vacation. We were together for like 2 weeks, and we were talking about like expectations, things that we were expecting from each other and stuff. And I told him point blank, if you had not done X, I'm not going to say what it is because I'm not trying to bring y'all all up in my business. Y'all be taking a lot of stuff out of context sometimes. If you had not done X, I don't think I would have had the same respect for you as I do now. And I was completely honest with that. And that's not to say that telling him point blank, like, this is what I expect from you. I'm noticing the signs. I'm taking in your behavior, like I'm holding strong to my boundaries. It's going to keep him from cheating. Absolutely not. It's going to keep him from lying to me. Absolutely not. But at least you know that this person knows you have to act accordingly in order to be in a relationship with me. I fully believe in love having conditions. I think that that's what vows are. I don't believe in this unconditional, oh, you could love this person through any and everything and they could treat you whichever way. And oh my gosh, even Kelly, she was like, he would dog me out and the way that he would speak about me and the things that he would do behind my back, in front of my face. But I just let the voice of God speak louder than his. I'm so sorry. There are certain things I cannot love you through. And you know why? That same covenant that you make at the wedding with God, if you are a Christian and you believe that, you should hold that person to that account. Those vows that you make are not only to God, it's also to your partner. So if I'm saying, I promise you A, B, C, and D, I expect you to follow A, B, C, and D. Those are conditions. And it seems like both of these women just thought, you know what, as long as I'm married, you can just throw the conditions out of the window. God will prevail overall. And at least you can say, I'm a wife. Not good enough. Not good enough. This is why I wanted to talk about like the marriage psychosis thing, because it seems like the fantasy of marriage is what people strive for more than the reality of marriage. And it's okay to say, you're not doing right by me. And you have never done right by me. And if you are lucky enough to catch you before you are married, it's okay to walk away and to say, I'm not going to tie myself to the situation. And God forbid, if you find yourself in that marriage, you can then hold your partner to account and say, this is not the type of relationship that we agreed on. Either you act right or I'm stepping on it. That's what I believe. Now, yes, God does not like divorce. Cool. But God says you can break that marriage if infidelity is concerned. And that seems to be the case in both of these marriages. To clarify, Ashley did not say that there was infidelity in their relationship, but I do remember early January or either late December, I don't quite remember, people were alleging that Tyler was doing some extramarital activities. And so that's why I did say that. The next thing that stood out to me was that it is important to find somebody who loves you and doesn't just tolerate you. Because if you hear the way that Reginald saw Kelly at the beginning, you would think that to this day, he detests this woman.
See, I think part of the problem with a lot of people that are married or not married, they're looking more for preference over purpose. I believe that this is my purpose.
Right.
Because she really wasn't my preference.
I wasn't. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We talk about you not being his preference. Was he your preference?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you like about him?
I loved his name.
His name?
Yeah. I thought Reginald was such a great name. And then he just, he was the all athlete everything back then, and
he was a superstar.
See, I met his mom when I was. He was.
So you hear him talk about, I wanted a thinner woman, I wanted a fairer skinned woman, I wanted he wanted her to be shorter and all kinds of stuff. And she is still those things. She is still a darker skin than what he preferred. She is still a thicker woman. She is still tall to this day. And he doesn't say she is my type because she is not. But he does say she's part of my purpose. And so I had to put purpose over preference. And you can absolutely tell that she is still not his preference. The way that he talks about her, whether or not it's past tense, I think that there's an importance in protecting your partner And there was no protection in the way that he spoke about her. They're laughing. Lateris is also laughing, like, oh yeah, I told you you had no self-worth. Oh, ha ha ha. Told you you weren't the right shade, told you you weren't the right size. Ha 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 ha. Although they've worked through it over the past 30 years, I would feel so unprotected and so vulnerable and so like disappointed at the fact that, okay, fine, maybe I wasn't your preference, but we're holding on because of purpose. Do you really think that your purpose here with me is to still make me feel inadequate 30 years into our marriage? Absolutely not. There is no way. And also, if they are people of the cloth, do you really think your purpose is to show how nonchalant you feel about having said these things about your wife, about the first lady of your church, seeing how you spoke about that person way back when and potentially to this day? No, no. And I'm thinking about the Ashley situation too. Now, there's no real proof of this, but I do remember people going through Tyler's reposts and his likes, and they were seeing that there's a lot of there was a theme, and the theme did not fall in line with Ashley's aesthetic.
Remember this conversation between Bri and Tyler, this text message? And it says at the bottom, it's cool. She doesn't look like anyone I've ever dated. I'll just say that. But so damn nice. He was talking about Ashley. And this is after he got back from the honeymoon on Love is Blind. And remember how I said, I was like, it's giving colorism. My followers, it's just pointed this out to me. And there's a reason why we were thinking it was colorism, and there might be some evidence to this, but this might change your mind and think this might be about a little bit more about her color. So this is Tyler's likes on his TikTok. Mostly everything is women, light-skinned women, very light-skinned women, mixed women. There is literally no dark-skinned women in this. I mean, most of the things are just women. I mean, it keeps going. So I feel like, is this what he meant by she doesn't look like anyone I've ever dated? I mean, and these are all from when likes he's made when he was with Ashley. These are all likes as he's been with Ashley. I mean, this is disturbing. This is disturbing. Oh, maybe I did see one darker lady. I mean, come on. I mean, look at this. Look at this. We don't even have time. I could keep going. This is actually insane. Like, everything he likes are women, light-skinned women. Everything. Like, guys, like, this is insane, right? Are you seeing this? This is insane. This is a married man. Okay, let's stop here because this is just, we'll be here all day.
Although we don't have concrete evidence that this is what Tyler's type is, Ashley herself says in this interview that she questioned if he ever even loved her. I don't know if that has to do with the lies that came out, whatever she experienced over the year in their relationship, anything else that she found out that we are not privy to knowing. But from the beginning, it seems as if she was somebody who he was going to tolerate and not somebody who he would have preferred. And it shows up in your behavior, because if you truly love this woman, if you truly prefer to be with this woman, you want to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. You're not going to make a misstep. You're not going to lie about all these egregious things. Sure, you have a past. We don't want to admit to those things. But to go about it the way that he's been going about it, and she did say that she went through his laptop and found the mother load. God knows what else she found out about him. Maybe it's the evictions that we know about. Maybe it's the little threesomes and the whatever stuff that he was doing. I don't know. I have no idea. But time has told that he didn't truly love her, because if he did, he wouldn't have treated her this way. Speaking of partners who just tolerate you, I'm reminded of the whole Justin Bieber situation where his wife, Hailey Bieber, was on the cover of Vogue, and he decided to take to Instagram and congratulate her with this weird backhanded caption. So he says, yo, this reminds me when Hailey and I got into a huge fight. I told Hales that she would never be on the cover of Vogue. Yikes, I know, so mean. For some reason, because I felt so disrespected, I thought I gotta get even. I think as we mature, we realize that we're not helping anything by getting even. We're honestly just prolonging what we really want, which is intimacy and connection. So, baby, you already know, but forgive me for saying you wouldn't get on a Vogue cover because clearly I was sadly mistaken. Now, a lot of people might think, well, is it really that deep? Is it really that deep? It must have been because he went and he changed that caption to just a few emojis. It's crazy to me, like, how he doesn't even see that that is a backhanded compliment. Like, oh, I once told her that she'd never be on there, but hey, sadly mistaken. Not even happily mistaken. It reminds me too of when people are like, when they're asked their partner, oh, what if somebody said, hey, are you in a relationship? And you said, oh, unfortunately, I am. You don't say unfortunately. Same way you don't say I'm sadly mistaken. I'm happily mistaken. I'm so glad that I was wrong. And then like you can tell too that he maybe has been to therapy or something like that. Like the way that he is talking through the caption, he's trying to unpack his bad behavior and trying to be accountable, but he's not quite there. Not quite there, but everybody knows the whole saga of whether or not Justin is really into Haley and whatever. I don't know. We are not in that man's head. We do not know his intentions, but it definitely seems to the greater public that he tolerates her a lot. I believe that they're another couple who puts marriage on a pedestal. And I also don't want to make it seem like putting marriage on a pedestal is necessarily a bad thing, but putting marriage on a pedestal at the detriment of your own self is crazy. It seems to me from the outside looking in that there's resentment in this marriage. I don't know if it's a matter of Justin never wanting to be married in the first place, Justin not wanting to be married to her, Haley feeling the pressure to be married because I think the father is the one who got them together. And I'm not sure. I'm not in their relationship. I don't know, right? But to me, the scariest part about marriage is not even the things that could go wrong, but when people will put marriage above all of the trash that's going on underneath, because maybe eventually it's going to show up to the surface. And I think that's exactly what happened with Justin, with Ashley. Like the reason why he had to change the caption is because he's like, oh, people are seeing into something that I did not intend for them to see. Let me try and rectify the situation. I feel like Ashley is only leaving that man and now talking about leaving this man because we saw the dirty laundry. How many times you guys have dirty laundry in your apartment? You don't care. You walk beside it every day. You don't care. You're not bothered until you know that somebody's coming over or that maybe you're going to have a video call for work or whatever. Once you know that somebody is able to see into your intimate space and see that it's not as put together as you make it seem, all of a sudden you're embarrassed. But before you weren't embarrassed at all. And that to me is what it looked like with Ashley. It didn't seem like there was an embarrassment. She was happy to be in this Black love couple, this couple that everybody loved, until we had a peek behind the veil. So speaking of putting marriage on a pedestal, I actually do value marriage very highly. One thing that I would hope, I can't say for sure that I wouldn't do this, but one thing that I would hope I don't do is fight for that marriage to the death of myself. There are just certain things that I feel like you don't have to put up with simply for the sake of saying, I'm married. And I feel like that's what these two women had done in their marriages. Starting with Kelly, she had pushed herself to the point of starvation so she could finally be his preference, which she was never able to achieve. She got to the point where she wanted to leave the marriage, but because of financial constraints, she was tied to this man who she no longer wanted to be with. There were just so many things surrounding this relationship that made her lose herself.
How did you not internalize that and say, well, maybe I can go lose some weight?
I actually started working out that week.
She lost like
that week.
I was like, when I saw her like a week or two later, we saw each other every day. I'm like, hey, you're losing weight.
Yeah.
She's like, you told me I'm bigger than what you used to, so I'm making it happen.
Yeah. Really.
And it wasn't from, so when you look at that, what was that? Would you feel like that was motivated from a healthy mindset?
Of course not.
So
of course
it was approval.
Complete. It was, if this is what you want, this is what I'll give you. One of his girlfriends came to my job to confront me because she found out about me And I'd be like, chick, I'm the wife. But anyway, she asked me.
She came to confront you because she found out about you?
She found out about me.
She had to explain to her,
And I
I
said,
work
"Listen,
2 jobs.
I go, why would I get rid of him?
He works
two jobs. Sometimes you can't afford divorce. I'm like, he's making rent. You know, we got to work this out.
Kelly believed throughout her marriage that at the end of the day, if you are a wife, you have won the prize. It doesn't matter what you have to go through, as long as you are married and as long as that man is picking you at the end of every day, everything is fine. And you could see that she was just a shell of a woman. I was talking before about how toxic things have gotten. I'm sure if she was able to see outside of herself and look into her marriage as a spectator, she would be gobsmacked at the fact that she was putting up with such crazy things, starving herself so she could be thinner. And it's not to say that it's wrong to want to, maybe be a little bit slimmer, be a little bit more snatched, no problem. But it's now at the detriment of her health. Like, she didn't say that she was like bulimic or whatever, but you could tell that she probably had an eating disorder or an unhealthy relationship with food and exercise, just to try so hard to fit this mold that this man had, created and had been searching for, even though he had already been married. So moving on to Ashley. Ashley says that the red flags only really showed up for her in the first month, of the marriage. And so as time went on, she was begging for anything more than the bare minimum, but decided that because divorce was not going to be an option for her, she was just going to accept the bare minimum.
There weren't really any red flags. He was on his P's and Q's while filming, like, for the most part. I don't think I seen a red flag until like our first month of marriage.
Yeah.
And by that point,
we're in it.
I'm already in it.
Right.
And I never wanted to get divorced.
Right.
And I think the thing I was clinging to was there gotta be something here. You know how like all the proof can point towards something, but it's like, what if one thing comes out and we find out, I was waiting for whatever this one thing was to pop up to prove like him innocent, essentially. She didn't like her kids being referred to as sperm donor children, which, by the way, I thought was the proper term.
Because that's what he said.
That's what he said.
Right.
And I didn't mean it in a derogatory way or to demean the children.
One thing that Ashley really, really, really loves to drive home is the fact that she's very intelligent. She says that she has made smart decisions for the last 32 years, and she shouldn't be crucified for this one bad decision. Now, well, that's debatable because I'm pretty sure she did speak about being in a 10-year relationship where she was being cheated on throughout. So it's not that everything has just been squeaky clean until Tyler, but whatever. She says that she is very, very smart. Being in this marriage at the detriment of her own well-being led her to believe, and you guys, I remember my head just hurting at the fact that she even believed this, to believe that Tyler was a sperm donor to all 3 of those kids, because when he engaged in the sperm donating process, well, the bootleg version of it, for the first child, the mother of his kids was able to keep that same vial in a deep freezer in their home for 2 years, and then was able to conceive with that same vial from 2 years ago. Mind you, this is not a fridge in a lab or anything. This is a home setup. You're telling me this woman who claims to be so intelligent, so smart, never had a misstep up until this point, would believe such an outlandish story like that? Her intelligence really was coming into question, because she claims that she thought the correct way to refer to Tyler's children, which they are, was to call them sperm donor babies. And I'm thinking, hold on. If you knew somebody was born via surrogate, do you go to them and they say, hey, you're the surrogate child? Or, hey, you're the kid who's adopted? Or, oh, you're the sperm donor baby? Intelligence, at least emotional intelligence, would teach you, hey, maybe that's not the best way to approach a situation. Maybe that's not the best way to address somebody. Maybe that's not the best way to, talk about people, talk about somebody's kids. Whether or not Tyler wants to acknowledge them as his kids, Bri acknowledges them as her kids. Those are her children. You don't speak about somebody's kids like that. But again, she's just so intelligent and she's so wise. I think that over time she had lost sight of herself and that pride that she holds on to very tightly. And I believe she doesn't realize it. That pride was clouding her judgment at every step. Speaking of pride, having pride in a relationship, I feel, will keep you from seeing that you are literally sleeping with the enemy. So in the Kelly situation, when they got married, she was currently pregnant and they had already had their kid together. However, because she was getting married, she didn't care that he was out at the bachelor party doing God knows what. And she's well aware of that. He showed up late to their wedding because of whatever fiasco went down at the bachelor party. And she still proceeded because that pride of having the title of wife was more important to her than having a faithful husband to begin with.
What happened at the bachelor party?
Man, I've learned in life some things you need to take to the graveyard.
Oh, come on. We know what happened at the bachelor party.
Whatever happened made him an hour late. It made him conflicted.
And I kept on paging him.
Right.
911.
Yeah.
Because there was pagers back then.
Yeah, because you got to remember this was 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my mom even came to me and said, Kelly, sometimes these things happen. Mm-hmm. But I know he'll show up, and he showed up.
So you said you knew he was going to show up?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I know my man. I thought that the title husband would change him. I did. I walked in thinking that if he was my husband and I was his wife, that a title could make you change. I learned very quickly that titles do not make people change. And I also thought that if he would own me, I wanted to be Mrs. Steele. If he had ownership, then he would treat me accordingly.
Oh, God.
I had to learn that way that wasn't true either. Yeah. So he would call me out my name. It wouldn't bother me because I allowed God's voice to be louder than his. And when I was going through transition of him not coming home on the weekends, not being there, telling me I hate you, I'll never love you, I wish I never married you, I knew that life and death is in the power of the tongue through the word of God. So I would say, you will love me one day. We will have a good marriage one day. And although he would go out for weekends, I would literally help him get ready to go meet his side chick by ironing his clothes and getting him ready for the night. And these are all things I was graced to do. I would not encourage anybody to do that unless you are graced by God to do this.
Listen, she was young when they got married, so I guess I'll give her a grace with that one. But in 2025, anybody within the hearing of my voice, we have to know that that is not true. There is no guarantee that marriage is going to change somebody's behavior. When they show you who they are, you believe them the first time. And speaking of grace, the reason why she was preparing her husband to go and cheat was because she felt like she was graced with this ability to do so. Now, this is something that not every woman can do, but she was given the grace from the Lord Jesus Christ to be able to do that. I don't think God wants to be in this conversation. I can't speak for the Lord, but you're telling me that he gave you the ability to facilitate cheating in a marriage, and that is a special grace bestowed upon you. I don't know about that one. As far as Ashley is concerned, she was having panic attacks, and the only person who she felt like knew her best was Tyler, the perpetrator of why she's going through what she's going through. And she literally asked him, am I sleeping with the enemy?
I unfolded into his arms while, trying to figure out if this man, like who he was. It was the most toxic.
Post-show airing?
Post-show airing.
Okay.
I'm letting this man hold me, and he's actually essentially my captor.
Right.
I remember putting my hands out like this. And I was like, am I sleeping with the enemy? And he said, no, you're not. And I asked him, is there anything that I need to know? Please do not send me to the wolves.
She had lost her way so much that she was asking a pathological liar to not lie. She'd already acknowledged that there are some holes in his story, but all of a sudden, because this was going to be on national television or international television, this was a global stage, there's no way he would lead her out to be devoured by the wolves. He absolutely would. At this point, Tyler had nothing to lose. Actually, he had her to lose. And so he was going to do whatever it took to make sure that she didn't leave him. So he was obviously going to continue to lie. And unfortunately, because of the pride that Ashley had, she was so wrong and strong behind this man. And it sucks that she got so much vitriol on the internet, because I do feel, y'all have heard me say plenty of times, the parasocial relationships are getting out of hand. I don't think it's anybody's place to give death threats or to speak evil things on somebody's unborn children, or to threaten their family or whatever. That's what people were doing to Ashley. I do not ever believe that that is okay to do. I do, however, think that when you are so loud and proud about something that is very blatantly wrong, you are going to get a lot of pushback, a lot of pushback, a lot of criticism. And she felt like it was so mean for her own community to chastise her so much when she's not even doing the thing that is wrong. Well, baby, you took up the mantle. You said, my man, my man, my man, my husband, my husband, my husband. I'm going to stand beside him no matter what. And so people said, okay, we're going to go for the loudest mouth, which right now is you. The second last thing that stood out to me was that both women believed that being married or being chosen made them superior. It gave them access that other women didn't have. It gave them a status that was just so sought after. And that was so clear with Kelly.
This girl named, I almost said her name, but she said, you know, me and Reggie broke up. And I said, Reggie who? And she said, Reggie Steele. And this girl was not cute. And I said to myself, if she got him, I know I can get him.
What would you say to the women that may be looking at this and say, see, that's that nonsense they talking about?
Well, I would say that's why you're single still. Because I'm sure somebody had been in your life already.
You don't pick the fight. You don't.
And you didn't want to give the investment for that person to become somebody, and then you lost them probably a long time ago.
Not everybody is wired like Kelly Steele.
Right.
She, even when I started the church, I felt like every woman should be her. And I couldn't understand why women wouldn't fight for their marriage. I'm like, but my wife fought for me. And you know what some of the women would tell me? I'm not Kelly.
Right.
And it took me a couple of years.
Right.
Kelly had this belief that although Reginald was doing whatever he was doing at the end of the day, because she had bagged him, she's the superior woman. It didn't matter that he would step out on her. It didn't matter that he would belittle her. It didn't matter that he would threaten her life. Because she was chosen, she was ultimately better than the rest. She even says that if women are unable to want to even entertain navigating a situation like this, then that's why they're single. That's why you're miserable. That's why you don't get to be graced with the title of being a wife, this prestigious role that every woman should strive to have, if you ask her, it seems. And so I was just like, oh my goodness, like, how scary is it that this is the rhetoric that they're likely sharing to their congregation, that, like, number one, being single is like the worst thing to ever happen. So you have to be a wife no matter what. You have to put up with, oh my God, just scary. There was a similar like pompousness coming from Ashley as well. I mean, we know that infamous clip of Ashley saying, some of y'all are not married, and it shows. And she claims that she meant it in a different way.
Oh, look who's single now. Like you said, some of us haven't been married and it shows, but it's like, go back to that interview when I said that. What I meant by that was, some of y'all haven't been married and it shows because you're expecting me to just up and bounce immediately. But if it was your real marriage, non-show related, that is not what you would do. You would follow that man to court and stand beside him in a nice suit, I hope. And you would stand beside him and support him until it was time for you to walk away. Don't y'all think I wanted a win for us? Don't you think?
What'd I say to you at the reunion?
Listen, sure did. A win is a win. A win is a win. That's why I'm happy for you, girl, because look, you win, we win, I win, we all win, right?
Yeah.
And I wore the culture on my back when I was filming. I made sure I didn't act ignorant. I made sure I represented myself classy, you know, educate, all of the things, and that was dismissed because of a man.
I found it interesting how Ashley has now changed her tone, and she says that what she meant by that phrase was, it is not as easy to walk away from your partner when you are in a marriage compared to just being in a dating relationship. However, when we saw on the show, there were signs showing. And she said, if he was just my boyfriend, bringing drama to my doorstep is an absolute no. I would have walked away immediately. He brought drama to her doorstep within the first month of them knowing each other, not marriage. Within the first month of them knowing each other, yet she stayed. She wanted to be chosen. She wanted the title of marriage because it gave her this status. She literally says, the thing that I miss most about being married is being part of the Secret Wives Club. And I know a lot of people have been cooking her online about the Secret Wives Club thing, but there is some truth to that. People do treat other people differently when they know that you are married. It's the same way that when you lose weight, you get treated differently. When you have kids, you get treated differently. When you get married, you get treated differently. When you buy a home, there are certain like milestone or achievements that happen in your life that change the way that some people, not all people, that some people interact with you. I notice it every single time. I promise you, I've never had so many conversations with people than since I've gotten into a relationship. People who barely speak to me all of a sudden have so much to say. Well, how is it going? Well, let's talk about that. Oh, okay, you guys are thinking of marriage. Well, what does that look like? All of a sudden, you're now engaging with me where before you would have just walked by. Hey, girl, hey, you good? Yeah, we good. Moving on, because I'm not part of this secret society. But it's interesting, too, how the thing she misses the most is not the partnership, is not the safe space, is not, it's this title, it's this status that she was able to get from being married. The last thing that I took away from both of these interviews was that having enablers in your life does more harm than good, and that it is important to have a community that genuinely supports and also holds you accountable and not just, blindly complies with whatever is going on. So with the Kelly situation, there were people from his past who were compliant in the behaviors of Reginald and those before him. And even Reginald's mom seemed to be an accomplice in all of this.
So while I'm shooting dice, this young lady was with me. It wasn't her.
No.
And one of the gentlemen, he said, hey, man, is your dad Alonzo Steele? I said, yeah. He said, I remember when he would come in this same room and he would have different females with him. And to me, that was a flex. I'm like, that's what's up. And then this older gentleman, he said, is your grandfather Lilburn Steele? I said, it is. He said, I remember when he used to come in this same room and he used to have different women with him. When he made that comment, it wasn't cute. One thing I hated was that as the relationship evolved, I would have other girls at my house, and my mom would call her.
Yeah, and let me know.
He got this other girl at the house, but don't you worry about it, Kelly.
Yep.
He gonna marry you.
That's right.
Your mom used to say that?
Man, I'd be like, Mom, why are you calling her? Why are you calling Kelly?
Snitching?
I'm going off, and I'm like, I'm 18. You act like I'm in my 30s. Like, stop calling Kelly. Tell her, you need to leave them other girls alone. My mama would go off. That's your wife.
Yeah.
But then I started waking up with crosses on my head.
Because the mothers of the church said, pray for him with anointed oil. And I couldn't afford olive oil, so I just got the Crisco at home and blessed it. And I just put it on his head and his hands and his feet. He'd wake up all greasy.
Yeah.
From people in the community just saying, oh, yeah, we know your dad. He used to be a cheater, too. He used to bring all these women. Hey, good to see you. Good to have you here. To women in the church saying, all you got to do is fervently pray over this man. It reminds me of this video that I saw on TikTok. And I don't want to make it seem like praying over your husband is a bad thing, but it almost like adds to this narrative of this religious psychosis that seems to be happening these days.
Being a wife is a mantle, says the Lord. And he said, for some of you, I will place upon you that mantle. For you will begin to be seen very differently because that veil is being lifted off of you. I place upon you that mantle, says the Lord. I place upon you that mantle, says the Lord.
It is great to be married. Marriage is a beautiful thing. But to put marriage at such a level to where you will sacrifice yourself, your well-being, your sanity, your health, your finances, your everything for this relationship, be so for real, especially if it's only you doing it. Absolutely not. And then with AD to me sounded like such an enabler regarding the Ashley situation. She was so pressed about the fact that people were trying to hold Ashley accountable. And I will say, I do agree that to some degree, accountability comes with relationship. I'm less likely to want to be held accountable by a stranger on the internet compared to my friend who I talk to every day, my friend who knows the nuances of what I'm going through, my friend who knows me and my true character and potentially my partner's character as well. Like that, Let's just be real about that. So I do understand like the internet and this loud presence, whoever that may be, talking about, whatever's going on in your marriage does feel like an attack. However, you making it seem like there was nothing to be done on Ashley's side, that everybody else is the enemy, and that Ashley played no part was insane to me. I felt like it made Ashley feel as if she was right in defending somebody who was a deadbeat. And she literally says, okay, yeah, I defended a deadbeat, whatever. Girl, I don't think that's something to just whatever to. You had people throughout the Love is Blind process vouching for Tyler. And the interesting thing is it was producers. And I'm thinking, when you have a community, you can't listen to every voice that talks. You have to have discernment to know who is actually for you and who is against you. She says that after Tyler cried about the kids and the whatever, the producers were commending him. Oh my gosh, you're so noble. Oh my gosh, you're so brave for telling your story. I don't know. They cried. They talked about what an amazing man he is. These people have a bottom line. They have a show to produce. They have drama to curate. They don't have your best interest at heart, even if you create a good relationship with them. They have a bottom line. They have an assignment. They're going to create the best show possible. You cannot depend on the reactions of those people. Let's be honest. And that is something that happens in day-to-day life too. It's not everybody who comes to you talking about your relationship that you need to listen to. It's not everybody's advice that you need to adopt. You need to be able to discern who has my best intentions and who is out here for my downfall, because it's probably more people than you think. And in Ashley's situation, that was true. Even Tyler's family was in on it.
When I say standing on it, his mom, she's a lot, like everybody, his friends, everyone around me. I even tried to get his little niece by herself when I seen her.
Was it you, baby girl?
I was like, all your cousins are here. Like, just to see if she was like, my other cousin, or anything like that, just to see. No, he's standing on it.
All the family members, oh, Bry's lying. Oh, whatever. We saw the friend come on TikTok saying, oh yeah, everything's a lie. She's crazy. She's whatever. Just to then backtrack and be like, sorry, y'all. I messed up. What I was saying was clearly not the truth. My bad. She went so far as to ask his niece about information to see if she could catch Tyler in a lie. Baby, that's how you know you have gone way too far. Way, way, way too far. So when, as much as I do believe that with accountability comes relationship, I also do think it is important to acknowledge that sometimes accountability is going to come from people who look just like us. And as painful as it may be, that's probably the best way to receive certain information. So AD has this saying, oh, the call's coming from inside the house, inside the house, inside the house. We know that that's code for her saying that the people who had the most commentary were Black people, more specifically, Black women, right? Then Ashley says, I wish the videos came out sooner so that I could navigate the situation differently. She also says, I wish the internet would have treated me like a homegirl instead of attacking me. I don't know about y'all's homegirls, but my homegirls, we say it's straight no chaser. Okay? I'm not going to coddle you. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm going to call you out on your behavior. I'm going to call your partner out on their behavior, and it's going to suck. It is absolutely going to suck. But the call needs to come from inside the house, because maybe that's when it will make the most sense. This person who looks like me, who's been through similar things, who has my best intentions, hopefully, again, use your discernment, is saying, hey, take heed. Something is happening here. Pay attention. And yes, were people attacking? There was a big number of people who were. But there were a lot of people, especially that big voice, this loud presence on the internet, that was coming to her defense and was hoping to God that she was a victim in all of this. Turn around and find out she was an accomplice. And so, the tide did shift. But a lot of people who were in this proverbial home had Ashley's back and wanted better for her. And it is unfortunate that things didn't pan out that way. In conclusion, what I took away from both of these interviews was how pride is such a hindrance in marriage, how humility can be so freeing, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in the community that you're a part of. I think it is clear for a lot of people that humility could have been the way that Ashley could have come back into the fold, but because she chose the prideful route, a lot of people are standing 10 toes down in their disdain for her, which is unfortunate. In the Kelly and Reginald situation, her pride, I mean, you could argue that it did work out for them because 30 some odd years later, they are still married. But at what cost? Did she have to go through everything she went through in their marriage just for that title at the end of the day? Who knows? Don't know. But yeah, I hope that if this video resonated with you, that you had the same takeaways as I did. Maybe you had more. I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. I'm hoping that this isn't a takedown or an attack, as some would say. Yeah, I just thought like there was a lot of insight to take away. Not that whatever she said, this being Ashley, or things that I would adopt for myself, but just learning that, you know, sometimes you don't have to experience something to learn. And you can learn from watching somebody else. And I definitely learned a lot from the Ashley and Tyler situation. You guys let me know down below your thoughts on the interview, your thoughts on marriage psychosis, your thoughts on my takeaways from this video. I did see that Tyler does plan on sharing his side of things. We'll see if I touch on it. Again, I'm trying to come from a different angle, so maybe it'll be hard to do that with his confession if he decides to confess some things. But I'll keep my ear to the streets and see what happens and hopefully keep you guys updated. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.